Hi, I'm Cheryl and welcome to my sewing room. I'm going to demonstrate how to make this really pretty storage basket. It has a handle, cute little decorative buttons, and it's also got 1/4-inch foam on the inside. Really easy project to do. Now you can use this basket for a variety of things. For instance, if you're into knitting, you could store yarn in this, keep your knitting needles in there as a little project bag. Or you can put it in a guest bathroom and put towels in it. Now, hun, that's not exactly what I had in mind. Okay, let's just get started. The approximate finished size of this basket is 11.5 inches by 11.5 inches. Out of fabric A, you will need 1.5 yards. Out of fabric B, you will need 1/4 yard. Out of the Pellon Flex Foam, it's about 1/4 inch thick. You'll need 1.5 yards. You'll need a small piece of cotton batting, 1/8 of a yard. You'll also need one ballpoint sewing machine needle. It might say Jersey on the package. You'll also need 2 large decorative buttons. These are about 1.5 inches. And then as an option, in a couple of the seams, you can put piping as a decorative trim. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate this in this particular video, but for those of you who are more experienced at sewing, or you're ready to move on to the next step, you can make your own piping or you can purchase the piping. To purchase the piping, you can use Wright's Maxi Piping Bias Tape. You'd only need one package, or you can make your own custom piping. At the very end of this video is a video link you can click on to show you how to make your own custom bias tape piping. Now, shortly I will be coming out with another video on how to make semi-custom piping. The problem with purchasing piping is there's not a lot of color choices in buying ready-made piping. So that's why you might want to make your own custom piping. I've put together a list of all the items you need to purchase and also a list of the cutting instructions. So put this video on pause, get your camera cell phone out, and take a picture of the list of supplies, which is right here. And then here is the cutting instructions that you will also need. This is my fabric B, which is 6.5 inches by 37 inches. And on each side here is fabric A, 3.5 by 37 inches. Go ahead and stitch the A on each side of the B fabric. Use a 1/4 inch seam and then press your seams open. Place the back side of it on top of your foam strip. And if you have these little quilting clips, place these all around to hold the edges together because it's kind of hard to put pin into this foam. Then stitch on all 4 sides a machine basting stitch. Make sure you have your ballpoint needle in your sewing machine. Take one of your circles from fabric A and place it on top of the foam with the back side against the foam. And again, do a machine basting stitch all the way around, and also make sure you have your ballpoint sewing machine needle in your machine. Now you're going to take the piece that goes up around the side. You're going to place it face down, so both fabric A's are coming together. My circle is underneath. I'm going to start stitching about 3 inches from the end over here. And you want to have your walking foot on because it's going to be very, very difficult to stitch through all of this. So you're just going to go ahead and just stitch really slowly, about 1/2 inch. And you just keep placing the foam, stretching it around there, and you're just going to keep going all the way around. When you get about 3 inches from the end, you want to stop and pull the basket out of your sewing machine. You're going to take the 2 edges here that are going up and down, and you're going to fold them over to make sure you have enough to stitch them together. You should have anywhere from 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch left. So go ahead and pin those 2 edges together. After you've stitched the side seam, then go ahead and stitch the rest of the bottom around the circle. Make sure you open up that side seam because it'll be a lot easier to stitch over. After you've finished stitching the lower bottom part, you want to go ahead and do little snips. You don't need to do it through the bottom circle, but through that piece that goes around the side, you want to do little snips because then it'll lay flatter, and just go all the way around. To make the lining, take your second circle of fabric A, and then the fabric A piece that goes around the sides, that is 13 inches by 37 inches long, and you're going to stitch it around the bottom of the circle. So start again just like you did on the fabric for the outside of the basket. Start in about 3 inches. Stitch a 1/2 inch seam all the way around. When you get to where you're almost to the end, stop about 3 inches away from the end. Take it out of your machine. Bring these 2 side pieces together. And then you're going to stitch a 1/2 inch seam along that side. Here's the side seam and here's the circle. Now when you're stitching that side seam, you don't want to stitch all the way across. You want to stitch down here at the bottom and the top. Leave an opening that is larger than the width of your hand, because this is the opening that we're going to use to eventually turn the bag front side out. After you've stitched your side seam, then go back down to the bottom edge where the circle is. Open up your seam and finish stitching the edge around the bottom. Then do little snips. Let me straighten this out a little bit. Do little snips around the bottom of the circle, and you only have to go through that top layer of fabric, and do that all the way around. To make the strap, place your cotton batting down first, and then take your 2 strips of fabric A, bring them front sides together, and lay it down on top of the cotton batting. Now you're going to leave an opening on one side large enough for your hand to come through, and then begin stitching. Do 1/4 inch seam all the way around, and what I've done at each end, I've just done a curve corner, not a real sharp corner. And do the same thing at the other end. Then when you finish and you come around here, do a few stitches back and forth. At each end, go ahead and cut some of the fabric off around the corners. Do that at all 4 corners, and then do some little snips like this on those corners. Then reach inside in between your 2 pieces of fabric here, your fabric A's, and turn this front side out. After you have turned it front side out, then go ahead and fold your edges in at the opening 1/4 inch and place pins all the way across. Then on all 4 sides, you're going to stitch a top stitch close to the edge, a little less than 1/8 of an inch, all the way around all 4 sides. Now insert the lining inside of the basket, and you want to bring front sides of the fabric together and pin all around all of the edges. And over here where my seam is, I've pinned the seam open because it'll make it much flatter. And then go ahead and stitch about a 1/2 inch seam all the way around. When you're at your sewing machine, I advise you to remove any storage compartment that is around the arm of your sewing machine, because you want to insert the bag underneath here so that it's easier to stitch around. So you would place it like this and then continue to sew all the way around. Now pull the lining outside of the basket and reach inside the opening there in that seam and begin pulling the basket front side out. Once you have the lining pulled out, then go to your opening and fold the edges in and place pins to close it up. Now you have two options for stitching it closed. You can either do a slip stitch, also it's called a ladder stitch, to close it up. And if you don't know how to do that stitch, the link is appearing right about now in the upper right hand corner. Or what I like to do, because no one's going to see this, it's on the inside, is I'll just go to my sewing machine and stitch real close to the edge right there to close it up. After stitching the hole closed, then go ahead and push the lining back into the bag. Then either pin or clip the upper edge and then stitch at your sewing machine about 1/8 of an inch from the edge up here all the way around. Now you're ready to put the strap on the bag. So fold your bag in half, and at each fold just put a little straight pin there to mark where the strap is then going to go. At each pin, take the end of the strap and pin it down. Go down, 1.5 inches or so, and I'm going to be using this decorative button, so you want the button to come slightly below the edge of the bag here. So go ahead and pin the ends on, and then I would do a little tack stitch back and forth here to add durability and strength, because this is a stress area. So once you've got each end of the strap stitched on, then go ahead and take your decorative buttons. These are really large buttons, and then go ahead and stitch those on. You could add this piping as a decorative trim to this upper edge seam here and the lower edge seam along here. Well, I hope you have a lot of fun making this basket. I know that I did. Now, if you like this video, click on the old thumbs up button, and also click on share to share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click on that red subscribe button down there in the lower right hand corner of your screen. Enter your email address, and don't forget to click on that little bell so you receive future email notifications about my latest video. I'm Cheryl, and this is Manny. So glad you came to my sewing room. See you next time, and happy sewing!